Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all of you who have come this evening to participate in the State of the City Address. Tonight's format will take the following approach. First, I will speak and give an overview of the city's economic state. In that portion of the presentation, I will not only be reporting our current conditions, but also speak to the subject of just how things have gotten so bad. I will then review the past financial and personnel practices of the city. Finally, I will review our economic development efforts and projects currently underway and how changes within the city will impact our efforts. Following my presentation, I will have each of the department heads speak for about 5 minutes to give a brief overview of their respective areas of interest. When you came in tonight, there was the opportunity to write down a question on a file card. After the department heads speak, we will take 20 minutes to answer a select number of the questions. I must first state that I will speak honestly and openly about where we are going, and how we got here. Since taking office last year, I have been told many times that I must downplay the past practices that led us to this crisis. I have been told that it would be counterproductive to speak the truth. I have been told that I could face the loss of my powers as mayor, that Corporation Counsel would have bills remain unpaid, and that my support staff would be removed. Well, if that is the price of speaking the truth, so be it. By speaking to all of the residents present tonight, we hope to further help everyone understand the reasons behind many of the decisions that went into the creation of our most recent appropriations ordinance. Dedicated staff toiled long hours in order to craft a plan that would preserve the most jobs possible, maintain our services at a safe and practical level, and begin to create some form of fiscally responsible government by reestablishing a rainy day fund. Those were the goals that I set before myself when I came into office. I was fortunate enough to find myself allied with some incredibly capable public servants, both elected and not, who share that vision and the will to carry it out. Putting the wheels into motion to bring the city back to a place of fiscal responsibility was accomplished in this year's budget. This spending document has had a profound impact on the operation of the city and has generated quite a bit of controversy among our residents. That was never our intent. However, when you are backed into a corner, you have to take stock of your resources and look for a way to protect yourself and still strike at the soft underbelly of your foe. And in this case, that is the status quo. Truth is the enemy to the status quo, and it is the only weapon I have been left with. So tonight, I shall choose to make full use of it. The truth is, the state of the city is critical. Because of past practices and lack of effective legislative and management oversight, we are now struggling with the greatest financial crisis the city of Waukegan has ever faced. It is a crisis that could have been at the very least minimized, but even possibly averted if inept and potentially corrupt past practices had been avoided and solid, honest business practices had been adopted instead. I will address these issues under the following headings: revenues versus expenditures, audits or lack thereof, the impact of tax levies over the years, and employment practices. We will display some very simple graphs in order to visually reinforce the information I will be presenting to you tonight, and I will keep the information as simple as I possibly can so as not to overwhelm everyone, including myself, with the highly technical aspects of what we are about to review. First, let's start with a review of the expenditures versus revenues. As you can see in the chart displayed, our expenditures began to outpace our revenues starting in 2003. So, as we see in the next graph, the city has run deficit spending in 8 of the last 10 years. The anomalous spike in the graph in 2002 reflects the proceeds brought in by a $31.2 million bond issuance. Decisions to run the city in a deficit mode are not made in a vacuum. One person alone did not make the call as to whether or not this reckless and unprofessional methodology continued. It was the responsibility of the mayor, the city council, the treasurer, and the chief financial officer to bring expenditures in line with revenues. It was their responsibility to know what was going on with the finances of city government. Maybe not on a minute-by-minute or even day-by-day basis, but they should have been aware or sought out the knowledge to enable them to understand just what the monthly, quarterly, and yearly patterns were. I often hear the refrain, "We didn't know. No one told us. It was all being hidden." But as you can and will see, the evidence is too large to have been so easily hidden. It was a conscious choice made by some to refuse to acknowledge these facts themselves and maybe, in some cases, keep the information from their colleagues and the community. The best example is in the realm of the audits the city is required to provide on an annual basis. Illinois law requires an audit to be produced within 6 months of the fiscal year end. When I took office, the treasurer, Dr. John Schwab, informed me that the audits and reports required for the years 2006, 2007, and 2008 were never done. I ordered that a new, nationally recognized audit firm be hired, one which had no prior connection with the city, so we could get a fresh look at our fiscal picture without the interference of politics and cronyism. Behind my back, the same auditors we had used in the past were brought back in. I am still trying to discover who actually authorized this in direct contravention to my order. This gross error in judgment resulted in the audit work not being done on time, and the work accomplished up to that date exhibited a multitude of errors and misstatements, adding up to over $100 million in discrepancies. A new audit firm, Baker Tilly, has been brought in and has been rectifying the errors made. They are the 17th largest audit firm in the country, with experienced and capable accountants focused on governmental accounting. Due to the past practices, the 06 audit was 42 months late, the 07 audit was 30 months late, and the 08 audit was 18 months in arrears. The 2009 audit, released by the new qualified auditors, has been posted online. The Baker Tilly auditors are on site right now, ready to begin the April 2010 audit. The material errors committed under the watch of the prior auditors are impossible to ignore, and I believe we all have to ask ourselves as a community, just how could this have happened? Who was in control during those years of the city's books, and who was making the applicable financial decisions? Where was the legislative oversight when all of this was occurring? How is it even remotely reasonable to excuse such gross errors? And it also leads one to wonder whether it was simple ineptitude or an attempt to camouflage the budget practices in place during those years. As you can see in this graph, the city's reinvestment in the capital assets, which covers streets, storm sewer systems, street lights, buildings, and other equipment, has stayed below the levels set back in 2002. One of the net results of this lack of reinvestment into our community is experienced every time we are struck by a storm of any magnitude that leads to flooded streets and basements across the city. It is seen in the degraded condition of our streets. It is seen in the out-of-date facilities of our police department. The only major investment the city has made in the last 10 years is the $25 million renovation of this Genesee Theater. But major cost overruns, a poor business plan, a politicization of the operational component, and lack of real fiscal oversight has led to annual losses there that we are still trying to quantify. I am hoping that a new management plan that requires significant increases in the number of events held at the theater to maximize utilization of the space, as well as the creation of a management board that will oversee the operations of the theater, will help lead the theater into a status of equilibrium, if not profitability, over the next 2 years. The next 3 years will see more difficulties in repairing our streets, stormwater systems, and other capital projects as our income continues to decline and our aging infrastructure continues to fail. The outcome of such decrepitude will be homeowners that will continue to see flooding basements and greater loss of value in their homes. Streets and intersections will continue to be impassable after moderate and heavy rainstorms. Businesses will suffer damages and will grow weary of being in a community that is literally crumbling to pieces beneath their very feet. We will be unable to move new development forward as we struggle to provide the infrastructure to serve new corporate clientele that will rely on a well-maintained community for their day-to-day operations. As you fail to invest in your infrastructure, the overall value of the city begins to decline, and each passing year, grows exponentially worse. Often, apologists within our organization will point their finger to declining revenues in the city as the main culprit of our current situation. While that is certainly part of the problems we are struggling with, especially in the last 18 months, it is not the entire reason. The real reason is one that reveals one of the areas where politics reared its ugly head in an area of government that should be quarantined from such influence. In order to be able to claim that your taxes have been kept low, officials in the city continue to push down the tax levy going back to 1999. As you can see from the graph, the levy went steadily downwards every year until 2008, where it took a modest increase. After I took office and we realized the extent of our financial troubles, the City Council approved a levy increase, moving the tax rate up to $1.64 from $1.41. This all would have been fine if the city had been making corresponding cuts in its expenses, but that was not done. In fact, expenditures were going up all that time, leading to the levels of deficits that I had spoken about earlier. This pattern has forced us into a mode of catch-up. We may have to keep raising the tax levy over the next 3 years in order to offset the deficit we are struggling with today. There are other variables that have pushed up our costs relative to our tax levy. As this next graph shows, we have seen a major shift in the cost of pensions to the city. The portion of the levy that is set aside to cover costs of police and fire pensions has increased from 19 to 25% over the last 10 years. Here in Waukegan, over the last 10 years, the number of public safety personnel has stayed relatively flat, yet the cost of public safety services have increased 96% to $44.4 million per year. The issue of pensions has been a difficult one for every community in Illinois. Studies are coming out right now showing that an employee who retires after 20 years of service can begin to collect a full pension when most people have to keep working for another 15 to 20 years. Then, given the longevity so many people are enjoying today, they can conceivably cost the community several $1,000,000 in benefits in the years after they retire, even though most are able to continue working and earning a full income for years after retiring from duty. The only remedy to this cost has to come from our state legislators. They recently acted on pensions, but did not act on police and fire. So Waukegan, as well as all Illinois communities, must wait and see if pension reform extends to those two groups as well. A major goal for the upcoming year is to continue the agenda of reform and renewal. Only after taking office just over 1 year ago did the severity of the city's fiscal crisis really come to light. After years of overspending, coupled with the recent economic downturn, the city was downgraded by Moody's Investor Service in November of 2009. The city was forced to issue $30 million in taxable working cash bonds just to stay afloat. In an effort to reinstate fiscal responsibility during the past year, the city hired new auditors, non-essential spending was curbed, layoffs were instituted, and the city offered an early retirement initiative and a voluntary separation plan to further cut costs. We have a long road ahead for Waukegan's full recovery. Currently, we are preparing to issue bonds to pay for a civil rights lawsuit brought against the city. There was a settlement offer of about $3 to $4 million made to the city, but that was refused, and the subsequent judgment cost us over $13 million. Initially, we had a loan out to cover the payment, but the debt service was over $60,000 per month and had to be restructured. We were able to do so, reducing the interest rate substantially, but that note is now due, and we must issue bonds in order to cover that expense. As of this last Monday, we have been advised that due to our current financial status, we should expect our bond rating to drop even further, which will cost us more in interest rates and insurance fees. In fact, as of this morning, our bond rating has dropped from AA3 to A1, and the additional costs and interest will run from $350,000 to $450,000 over the life of the issuance. That brings me to our next topic, our general obligation debt. Since 2001, we have seen a 213% increase in our general obligation bond debt. It has grown from $29.8 million to an estimated $93.2 million in outstanding bonds over the last 10 years. As you can see by the chart, This growth in bond indebtedness mirrors the downward trend in the property tax levy we spoke about earlier. As our revenues decreased, we needed to make up for that lack of capital, and bonds provided the city with money to spend. Last year, we had to issue the $30 million in bonds in order to provide the city with money to pay outstanding invoices and provide us with working capital. Citywide garbage pickup was almost halted due to the fact that the city was so far arrears in their account with Veolia. The state also threatened to withhold tax revenues from the city because we were in arrears in payments to Illinois Department of Transportation for a construction project on Sheridan Road. The reliance on bonds versus a solid, honest tax levy has also pushed up our debt service expenditures. Over the last 10 years, the city has seen a 30% increase in annual debt service payments. This has pushed our annual cost up from $6 to $8 million per year. With our losses in sales tax revenues, the burden of these mortgage payments will fall squarely on the shoulders of the city's taxpayers. In December 2009, the City Council unanimously voted to institute a 2009 real estate tax levy increase for the 2010-2011 budget. The budget proposal also included a recommendation to institute a quarterly refuse collection fee designed to partially recoup the cost of providing curbside garbage, recycling, and yard waste pickup. We continue to review other revenue alternatives. With the current situation with the state's fiscal health, more doubt is being cast on our revenue streams. The governor's most current budget plan projects a 7 to 10% cut in state spending. One option for hitting that target is the reduction or elimination of the state's revenue sharing with municipalities. If that is a component of the final budget, the city will lose at least $2.1 million immediately. This will place even greater stress on our budget and will certainly invoke a whole new round of cost-cutting measures and revenue-generating proposals. Before I conclude this part of my speech, I want to address legal expenses. We have cut our costs by over $500,000 in the coming fiscal year. We have established relationships with new firms out of Chicago for all of our legal needs and find that not only are we saving a great deal of money, but getting better advice and service at the same time. My corporation counsel, Newton Finn, and his dedicated staff are working hard to minimize our risks and exposures to lawsuits by working with the experts at Aon, who have helped the city to create, for the very first time, an effective risk management division that will further reduce our legal exposure. The lawsuit that was brought by the city against the businesses on the harbor is now officially at an end. At this moment, it looks as if our total costs will reach $1.3 million for that misguided effort, while our return in the settlement will be far below that. As a community, we should all be asking ourselves just who decided that this was the right way to proceed, what were the real intentions of the lawsuit, and how could those with the appropriate oversight allow the legal bills to climb to such an astronomical level. I look at it as just one more indication of the lack of leadership that has done such damage to this organization and the people it is intended to serve, and was just an extension of the status quo way of doing business in Waukegan city government. I think it is important that I read from an internal memo that was developed in our finance department relative to some serious questions that have arisen about our financial state of affairs. I have redacted some of this for legal reasons, but it states as follows. In reference to the previous audits, the materiality of the misstatements is stunning. Even given the downturn in the national economy, the city's lack of liquidity is perplexing. As a result, we can no longer, with confidence, support the city's prior year audits completed by the previous firm and feel an independent review or investigation should be completed of financial activity prior to my tenure as mayor. These actions may have violated local, state, and federal laws and regulations, including, but not limited to, the Local Government Prompt Payment Act and the Criminal Code of 1961. Such an investigation will be implemented as soon as we can either raise the funds to do the forensic audit ourselves or can successfully request the involvement of federal law enforcement officials in carrying out such an investigation. I promise that the results will be provided immediately and in full to the people of Waukegan, because it is our right to know, as a community of hardworking taxpayers, whether or not our monies were handled in a legal fashion over the last 10 years. So, what will the effect be on city services of our financial situation? It is obvious that the disparity between available resources and the demands thereupon is great. Consequently, non-essential programs and projects will not move forward, and additional workforce reductions have been carried out. As a result, we will have to reassess just what the core responsibilities of the city are and divest ourselves of those that are not. This will mean more changes and more difficult adjustments, but these things must be done. But I want to assure everyone that we will still provide the best in police protection. Our fire department will be fully capable of responding to any emergency that might arise in the city. Our public works will continue to maintain our infrastructure and keep our roads plowed in the winter. The water department will still provide safe, clean drinking water. Our code enforcement department will still be vigilant in their duties as they help protect the quality of life across the city. But we are all doing more with less. And I have the utmost confidence in the good people that work for the city of Waukegan that by pulling together, we will get through these difficult times and will be a better organization for having been through it. We will keep working hard to tap into more federal resources as regional stimulus plans move forward by working closely with our lobbyists in Washington, the Ferguson Group. I hope that our local state legislators will keep working with us to tap into the dwindling resources that are available from Springfield. While we recognize that the state has precious few dollars to share, I hope that struggling communities like Waukegan are kept at the top of the list of candidates for assistance. Now we will go into past personnel practices. In the past, the city of Waukegan seemed to have no accountability or standards in their human resources practices. A recent study by the Aon Group put focus on several key areas of concern. First, it appears that HR policies were applied inconsistently, changing from employee to employee. Jobs were not posted. Unqualified individuals were hired. Relatives and friends of city officials were hired without previous experience or current qualifications. At times, supervisors were ordered by city officials to hire individuals regardless of qualifications. Certain employees were hired without any of the required background checks, physical evaluations, or drug screening. There was no system in place to evaluate candidates who may have been interviewed for a job opening, nor were there standards for the process of the actual interview. There was no consistent effort to conduct performance appraisals for each employee as set forth by city policy. Inconsistent employee discipline is another issue. There were several instances where supervisors disciplined employees only to have those actions overturned by more senior leaders in the city. I have to admit, the report was damning at the very least. It seems if you were related to someone in senior leadership or had some standing in the local political environment, those were the best qualifications you could have to serve in the city in Waukegan. I am proud to say we have put a stop to all of this. We have a professional human resources director who is isolated. We have a professional human resources director who is isolated from the political forces within city government by my office, and we are building a whole new culture within the organization. It is an egalitarian culture where you advance by working hard, helping to solve as opposed to make worse our problems, and have the capacity to carry out the day-to-day duties of the job. As long as I remain mayor, the old practices will be a thing of the past, and hopefully, over the next 3 years left in my term, we will build a professional organization that operates on a day-to-day basis just as any successful business should, free of the taint of politics, cronyism, and nepotism. Economic development. The city of Waukegan, like all other municipalities, is struggling to retain, let alone expand, the all-important commercial and industrial base that provides jobs and revenues for the city and our school district. Unfortunately, the position of Economic Development Director was eliminated from our appropriations ordinance. The job of attracting new businesses to Waukegan is difficult enough as it is, but losing such an important component of those efforts will certainly not make the job any easier. Other staff members will be stepping up to help fill this gap and ensure that we don't miss any opportunities. Also lost in that process was the funding for the feasibility for the Grand Prix-style car race we were working to attract. Without that study, we will be unable to bring the sponsorship money we needed to make such an event possible, so as of now, the effort is effectively dead. Because of our current fiscal crisis, the city must take steps to develop revenue streams as quickly as possible. In order to raise these desperately needed monies, we are actively moving forward with putting the property out at Fountain Square on the market. This is being done with the hope of recouping the cost of the land initially purchased as part of the failed casino bid. We have met with members of the Shaw Group who hold the rights for the sale of the property about different strategies, which include selling it as one big parcel or breaking it into small components in order to maximize our profits. A multitude of potential uses have been discussed, ranging from another large-scale retailer to a mixed commercial, office, and residential lifestyle type of development. The one potential impediment to any major retailer locating there is the puzzling non-competition agreement that the city struck with Walmart that may have provisions in it that could prevent some types of retail from being developed there. We are currently reviewing this agreement to see if it has any actual legal standing. Other properties the city owns are being cataloged and assessed for possible sale as well. I believe that it is time we get out of the property ownership business, except where specific government needs are to be met. We need to get the property back into the hands of the private sector, back on the tax rolls, and let the free market dictate how it will best be developed. I am happy to report that our restaurants and hotels out at Fountain Square are doing great. If any of you get the chance, I would recommend you go see for yourselves the lunchtime crowds that fill our eateries on a daily basis. This is all due to the industrial and office complexes across Highway 43, where thousands of people report to work every day. Walmart continues to maintain their sales even in this tough economy. The off-track betting facility, now located on Green Bay Road, will be moving out to the Fountain Square site where they will share space with the Sundance Saloon, and of course, we wish them the best of luck with this change. We recently met with a group that is looking to begin an import-style business for the Latino community that will occupy the old Ace Fashion Mall building on Belvedere Road. The plan is to have a retail warehouse combination at that location, and it has real potential for jobs and tax revenues for the city. Not far from there, another major grocery store chain is in negotiations with property owners to open an operation that will offer the community a quality shopping experience. And if built, it will also tap into the underserved North Chicago market. The development will produce numerous construction jobs, badly needed revenues for the city, and if the project is brought to fruition, will employ up to 150 people. I firmly believe Waukegan needs to attract the chain type of businesses. They provide better brand name recognition for consumers, better corporate support for marketing, and the increased ability to survive in lean times. When you look at cities that have thriving commercial districts, they are always based around national chain types of stores. I know some people feel that you give a part of a city's unique identity away when these types of businesses develop, but it is a trade-off we will have to make if we are going to grow as a community. We want out-of-town visitors to come to Waukegan and spend money. Consumers like to know that they are going to have a quality shopping or dining experience and often are hesitant to shop in unfamiliar retail stores or dine at a place with an unfamiliar menu. A corporate brand identity provides most consumers with a form of assurance of quality and consistency, two important factors in attracting consumers. Bringing in these types of businesses is important for a community because it provides competition and forces all existing business owners to improve their operations in order to be more competitive. Unfortunately, there seems to be the mindset among some that competition is a bad thing and that protecting the current status quo in our business community is far more important than creating new opportunities for construction, jobs, tax revenues, and bringing new consumers into Waukegan. We have to adopt a new philosophy in regards to development. Waukegan government cannot stymie growth to protect friends and cronies. We must adopt a more open approach to business development and allow the free market system to function in this city. We must look at the city as a whole, not as 9 individual principalities. We must take a more business-like mindset about bringing in new commercial development and take every reasonable opportunity that comes our way. After all, in a city with 18% unemployment, we cannot afford to reject new opportunities in order to protect the status quo. Our zoning and development codes will take care of the issues of location, aesthetic requirements, and other concerns to make sure businesses are being responsible members of the community. We must move forward when opportunities arise, even though we know that bringing in the new will often result in the failure of the smaller existing businesses. It is all about trade-offs, and sometimes decisions have to be made that will hurt some, but will, in the end, benefit the many. Next, I would like to address our lakefront. We will continue to work toward the implementation of the award-winning Downtown and Lakefront Master Plan, recognizing that the 20-year implementation period designed for the plan allows for and even requires a level of flexibility that permits adjustments to market conditions. The master plan has a great deal of open space, fully half the acreage covered by the plan, and we will continue to work with appropriate partners to create those diverse open spaces that will not only be a benefit to the community by providing more recreational areas to be enjoyed, but will also benefit our planet through the elimination of invasive species, the preservation of habitats for threatened and endangered species, and the creation of new or ecologically improved wetlands to clean our groundwater before it flows into Lake Michigan. On the development side, we will thoroughly review any development proposals to ensure that they not only meet the master plan guidelines and the city codes, but create responsible development that benefits the entire city and requires the developers themselves to make a significant investment in the development, rather than burdening the city with the bulk of the risk and cost. We will seek federal assistance for projects that have green and environmentally friendly components, and will encourage all development to consider doing what's best for our planet. We will also seek to attract green industry development to Waukegan, including the possibility of locating these types of uses on the lakefront, effectively utilizing our rail and port amenities. We have met with a group interested in developing alternative energy sources out in Lake Michigan that would provide jobs for hundreds of people and bring in large numbers of professionals into our city. My administration will continue to seek to bring jobs to the city that are related to the new direction the nation is taking as new green technologies are developed, and we go after the attendant jobs that will come with such innovations. Right now, the demolition of the old OMC plant is ongoing. If you go down there tomorrow, you will see that the walls are beginning to come down. This and the following removal of polluted soils, as well as the pending dredging and cleanup of our harbor, have been made possible by our partners at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Once these projects are done, the majority of our environmental issues on our lakeshore will be resolved, and we will be able to move forward into the redevelopment phase that has been so long in coming. Thank you for that bridge. While we search for more economic development opportunities, we will move forward with the work on the elements of the lakefront development plan, which will create a system of trails and the open space components of the master plan. Even if we do go back to a working lakefront, those components will be an integral part of attracting new development. I am hoping to partner with the Lake County Forest Preserve District and our Park District and tap into their expertise in recreation and open space restoration to help Waukegan accomplish that part of the lakefront plan. Let's move up the bluff now and take a look at what is happening in our downtown. Over the last 4 weeks, we have been in discussion with a major restaurant chain which has targeted a site in our downtown as a new location for them. The Art Space project to be located in the Karcher Hotel is at a crucial stage right now as the Illinois Housing Development Authority prepares to review the funding request the city has put forth. As I mentioned before, we are in the early stages of restructuring the operations of the Genesee Theater with the hopes that increased usage will lead to increased development in our downtown. We are awaiting confirmation of funding for a major educational facility project to be located downtown. The residential development known as the Beitler Project is not dead yet. They have been exploring an array of funding opportunities, and we still have hope that it can break ground sometime in the year 2011. The Chateau has been taken over by new ownership after struggling through receivership and is a fine example of the new type of housing market we would like to see develop in our downtown. Several new businesses and restaurants have opened along Genesee Street, and a small theater group, Clockwise Theater, will soon be offering performances in one of the new businesses, the Brick Cafe. Joplin's Java continues to offer jazz and other unique musical offerings on weekends. Good food, music, and open mic events are still drawing crowds down to the Greentown Tavern. The Troubadour program we began last year will kick off a new season. This program will provide residents and employees working downtown with free musical entertainment at Binney Plaza and other downtown locations on Fridays at the end of the workday. The Waukegan Library Summer Concert Series kicks off this Friday and will continue to offer lunchtime attendees the usual eclectic mix of musical offerings. While the official Scoop has been canceled due to our fiscal troubles, an unofficial effort called Scoop Unplugged has been organized and will occur on July 10. I have spoken with one of the area's largest car clubs and have told them they are welcome to come downtown and scoop anytime they would like. Hopefully, this will bring people into our downtown and provide our restaurants and businesses with the customers they so sorely need. Of course, we want to acknowledge the efforts of our Main Street organization and their hardworking volunteers for their efforts in revitalizing our downtown and playing such a crucial role in bringing visitors in to attend their special events. Next, I want to address the quality of life that is so important to current residents and is crucial in attracting new ones. Our code enforcement department has reviewed properties in the downtown area, the 10th Street area, the North and Franklin neighborhood, with more to come in order to get property owners to renew and bring their properties up to code. Negligent property owners, especially those in our business districts and along our major thoroughfares, have done harm to the reputation of the city and the value of the surrounding properties for too long. Communities like Highland Park or Lake Bluff would never put up with some of the distressed properties we have allowed to exist in Waukegan. That also goes for owners of apartment buildings and other housing projects across this city. We are not going to allow them to drag down the health, safety, and welfare of this city to maximize their profits. Our efforts in this area have already begun. Our first project was the well-known Julian Towers on Genesee Street across from the post office. A concerted and relentless effort on the part of code enforcement, fire department, police department, public works, and legal counsel has pushed the owners to improve the appearance of the building, increase security measures, and make all the necessary repairs required. We are grateful to the owners for working with us quickly and cooperatively in order to make this first effort the emerging success that it seems to be on the way to becoming. We held a meeting this Monday, and everything we asked of them has been done. I am happy to report that the numbers of police and fire calls from that location have dropped by 70%. This is an effort that we will now take across the entire city, pushing rental property owners to take more responsibility for the appearance of their properties and the quality of life for the residents. We will be working to make sure that the banks and mortgage companies maintain the properties they take ownership of by foreclosure or abandonment. This will be accomplished with new legislation that our Corporation Counsel is currently working on in conjunction with one of our legal partners, the firm of Ansel Glick. We are also preparing to create overlay districts across Waukegan that will keep single-family residential properties from becoming rental cash cows, which could possibly have a detrimental impact on neighborhoods. This will help maintain already eroding property values and provide current homeowners with some peace of mind regarding quality of life issues. I recognize that doing all of this during the worst economic times this region has seen since the Reagan recession can be unpopular. I want to emphasize that it is not the goal of the city to cause financial harm to anyone. Yet we must ask ourselves, if it doesn't get started now, then when? The same people who have refused to maintain their properties in the good times and use this city as a write-off for years will bemoan this initiative now, claiming economic hardships as a reason not to bring their buildings up to the standards we have in our statutes. If we allow them to turn us from this effort, then the city will continue to slide backwards as issues of appearance and public safety continue to grow far more problematic. You know the old saying, first impressions are the most important, and you only get one chance to make a good one. We must do whatever it takes to ensure that happens. Finally, and most importantly, we are repairing our brand identity by subverting the old preconceptions of Waukegan and supplanting them with the image of a community that is progressive, fiscally disciplined, puts business before politics, and is willing to make the difficult choices necessary to secure a successful future. The city will continue to explore new ideas and seek the cutting edge of the future of American economic development. We will engage in green initiatives such as alternate energy use and development. We will continue to reach out and to develop new partnerships locally and afar in order to bring new ideas and new resources to Waukegan. I will continue to adhere to a competent and fiscally sound financial model for the city because I truly believe that is the best way to guarantee the delivery of the necessary services to future generations of residents. We will dedicate ourselves to building conservative levels of cash reserves in order to be better protected in the years to come. We will continue reducing costs and liabilities. By doing these things, we believe we will gain a reputation as a good investment risk and an honest and fair place in which to do business. Okay, I admit the report I brought you tonight is not exactly filled with optimism, but it is a realistic picture of the current state of this city. It is also a fact that while we may be down, we're not out. It is widely acknowledged that it will take longer for Illinois to come out of this recession than most other states. We have to be cognizant of that and not descend into hopelessness and anger while we all struggle through one of the most difficult periods in the history of this nation. We also have to take some measure of solace that while we are hurting, others are in far worse shape. Our current rate of unemployment is 18%. Rockford is facing nearly 25% unemployment. Racine is over 20%. Springfield is laying off public employees and closing fire stations on a rotating basis. Many Lake County communities have been faced with layoffs, furlough days, early retirement incentives, and other cost-cutting measures. The state police are losing 400 employees and closing a number of stations across the state. It might be a cliche, but if there ever was one more appropriate for the current trying times, it is the old saying that things are tough all over. Waukegan has been through tough times before. We managed to make it through those difficulties, and we can certainly survive the current crisis. But we won't make it through these tough times if we lose sight of the things that we have to do, that we do have. A beautiful lakefront, a perfect location between Milwaukee and Chicago, a wonderfully diverse population and rich cultural heritage. We must not allow ourselves to be lost in desperation and anger. If that does happen, it will make recovering from this challenging, yet certainly temporary situation that much more difficult. If we spend our energies fighting one another instead of working together, if we allow partisan politics to overwhelm progressive possibilities, if we cannot make the best of what we have right now, then we will surely become our own worst enemies, and we are surely dooming ourselves. Then the failure of a city like Waukegan that is filled with so much hope, so much desire for something better, and so many rich possibilities will go down in the history books as an item to be studied and pondered over for generations to come. That is an outcome that you and I cannot allow to happen. But we will have to share in the sacrifices it will take to make sure that is not the fate of the great city of Waukegan. I am willing to do that, and I hope that each one of you here tonight and everyone across the entire city will accept this challenge and see it through together. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go on to the second part of the program for this evening. Okay, thank you. Okay. I would like to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, Tina Smigelski, who will come up and brief you a little bit further on the financial situations here with the City of Waukegan. So thank you. Tina. And I am sorry, I did forget to pull up my tie and button my shirt. And I do apologize for the gentleman for ruining his evening.
Good evening. As the mayor introduced, my name is Tina Smigelski, and I serve as the city's Director of Finance and Administration. I'd like to thank the mayor for the opportunity to participate in this forum this evening, and as he so aptly illustrated in his comments, it's been quite a challenging year. By tapping some excellent seasoned personnel within the city's existing finance and administration staff, coupled with bringing in the fresh perspectives of a new human resources director, a new audit firm, and a new risk management team, we have been able to begin down the long road of reinstating fiscal responsibility at the city of Waukegan. Over the past year, the Collector's Office rolled out the Customer Self-Service Portal, allowing Waukegan residents to view their current water bill, check consumption history, and make payments online. Customers may also complete applications for water service, pet, vehicle, residential rental, and business licenses on the web. We plan on continued use of technology to respond to customer preferences for payment options, improve our cash flows, and ease administration of our collection process. As the mayor mentioned, the city brought in new nationally recognized auditors. This has allowed the city to catch up on audited financials and design a new course for enhanced internal control systems, improved efficiencies, and better decision-making tools for our city leadership. Along those lines, we've worked diligently to identify the best mechanisms for capital project financing, even given the city's unfortunate bond rating downgrades. This year, the city held several public budget hearings, posted our budget online, and made every attempt to increase the transparency of the annual budgeting process. Looking forward, we will be instituting improved controls over spending, better matching resources to expenditures, and instituting the expectation that the city's department heads embrace fiscal responsibility as one of their core functions. Our Management Information Systems Division maximized uptime of our systems and our users by beginning the replacement of obsolete systems and replacing them with more robust ones. We will continue reviewing the use of technology citywide to make better use of our staff time and other limited resources. In the area of human resources, we have worked to improve employee communication. This included an employee benefits fair in the fall and reducing redundant paperwork. Health insurance open enrollment meetings were conducted in every department on every shift. Ultimately, open enrollment was moved to a paperless, web-based process, allowing for 24-hour access to benefit information from work or home. We have some exciting projects for the upcoming year. Human Resources will be conducting citywide employee performance management training, beginning an employee connections program for information sharing among various employee groups, and the creation of an employee-driven health and wellness team. A less visible but no less important area that we focused much of our effort on over the past year has been risk management. A new company was hired to manage our liability claims, resulting in identifiable savings of $250,000 in the first year alone. Internal procedures were improved to change the adversarial nature of the workers' compensation claim management process, with an eye toward reducing costly litigation and lowering overall workers' compensation costs without denying any employee the benefits to which they are entitled. Also implemented this year, for the first time, the city has guidelines for the lawyers who are representing the city on litigation matters. This provides city management with much better control over costs and protecting the city's interests. The most critical risk management need at this time is to develop a culture where costly accidents are not acceptable, and in which every work injury, car accident, and property damage claim is regarded as something that should have been prevented. To be successful, we need to make safety part of every employee's job. We have jump-started this culture change by holding monthly claim reviews with departments and forming a safety committee made up of all the department heads. For the first time, department heads are seeing the data on the number and the costs of accidents in their area and are being charged directly for those costs. Our success in developing this sort of culture will be the key to bringing our insurance and claim costs under control versus seeing those costs continue to be a significant drain on the city's budget. In closing, my staff and I take the city's past disappointments as tomorrow's challenges. and we strive for enduring and continuous improvements in fiscal responsibility and professional integrity. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Treasurer Dr. John Schwab.
Good evening. The Treasurer is responsible for the city's audits. When I came to office, I discovered the city was 3 years behind in audits and in the filing of those audits with the state, the county, and the federal government. This is required because of our bonds. All bonds, we are required every year to make sure, so we were in violation of all of those at that time. We are now, shortly will be in compliance. We have new auditors, and I expect the audit for the 2010 audit will come in on time before November 1st. I have the financial responsibility of the city's money, the cash management. I manage $85 million on a day-to-day basis. All of the money that goes in and out of the city is recorded in my office. I also manage the finances of our debt, our borrowing of our money. I did this by, I lowered this by the letter of, we do this by letter of credit or bonding. Last fall, I found out that the city was paying a high rate of interest on a letter of credit and negotiate for a much lower rate of interest, saving $550,000 on an annual basis. I oversee the police and fire pension, which means that I'm sure that their boards follow their bylaws, meet on a regular scheduled basis, and get advice from auditors, Baker Tilly, actuaries, Hewitt and Associates, accountants, Lauterbach and Amon, and investment counseling, Marquette and Associates. As of April 30th, 2008, the police pension was funded at 55% and the fire pension at 60%. Making note that that was April of 2008. The stock market has risen since then, and those percentages I'm sure have risen, and in the next audit, I'm sure that they will be improved. The city obligation to these funds has doubled, approximately doubled in the last 10 years. I give a report each month of all the activities in all of the city's funds to each member of the City Council. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Chief of Police, Artis Yancey.
Mayor and distinguished guests, it is indeed an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as your Chief of Police of what I feel is one of the finest police departments in the state. Although over the last year, the Waukegan Police Department has faced and conquered many challenges that have led to many successes. These successes can be attributed to three areas. The first would be the mayor and his support and encouragement of the police department and its law enforcement and community policing efforts. An example of his support has been his combined efforts of department heads in approach of compelling poorly managed, high call volume rental complexes, making them clean up their act. Two large complexes that were responsible for approximately 5% of all police calls to service citywide were made to become better neighbors through administrative means. Secondly, credit goes to the hardworking, dedicated men and women, both sworn and civilian, of the Waukegan Police Department who unselfishly daily go above and beyond their call to duty to serve the citizens of Waukegan. This service is demonstrated by 2009 statistics that will be revealed shortly through our annual report that show a marked reduction in violent crime in the city, which has seen a significant reduction in homicides from 4 in 2008 to 2 in 2009. This reduction in violence in our community is directly correlated to the department's aggressive approach and disruption of criminal activity by taking away the opportunity for street crimes to occur. This is exemplified by the fact that in the calendar year of 2009, the Waukegan Police Department confiscated 152 firearms from the hands of criminal element. This is nearly twice the number of firearms taken off the street the previous year. We also observed a 2.5% reduction in residential burglaries throughout the city from the previous year. We also made great strides in efforts to improve community relations by expanding our neighborhood watch programs from 35 groups to now well over 50, which translates to a 35% increase, as well as an emphasis on resident outreach, which has improved the department's relationship with the community and has translated into fewer citizen complaints. However, our work is ongoing, and as we approach the summer months, central to our mission, we need for continuing community partnerships and support. And we encourage the city citizens to continue to call on suspicious incidents and utilize our department website to offer any concerns for public safety. Once again, it was indeed a pleasure to speak to you tonight. Thank you very much.
Next, we will have Waukegan Fire Chief Dan Young.
Thank you, David. Good evening. Again, my name is Dan Young, and I'm proud to serve you as the City Fire Chief. After 30-plus years, I have seen many changes in the city as well as in the fire service. Changing city boundaries, population increases, and the service that we have provided has increased, some due to the state of the world's terrorism, some due to the citizens' trust in our service we provide. They feel comfortable to call 911. Currently, the fire department operates 5 stations located at the following addresses: 3221 North Green Bay Road, that's the airport fire station. 825 Gulf Road, that's at Gulf and Jackson. 216 North Lewis Avenue, that's right in the center of the city. Then we have a fire station, Station 2, 4505 McGaw Road. And then we have our headquarters fire station, which is located at Belvedere and Jackson. The city employs sworn firefighters who are also cross-trained as paramedics and EMTs, staffing each of these stations. We operate 4 engines, 1 truck, 5 MICU ambulances, 1 rescue squad, and we even have an aircraft firefighting engine. We also have automatic aid agreements with Libertyville, Gurnee, Newport Fire Protection District, and Beach Park. And for any major incidents, we initiate mutual aid, which provides for immediate aid from neighboring departments. An example of that would be the recent explosion which took place on Grand Avenue. The call went out for specialists from all departments in Lake and McHenry County for specialists in collapsed buildings. And it was an incident to remember when you take and you turn the corner and you have mannequins laying all over the road. Without depleting the neighboring city department resources, each city pitched in to help us mitigate that situation. It is the mission of the fire department through professionalism, dedication to duty, integrity, and training to safeguard the lives and properties of the citizens of Waukegan, while enhancing lives and fostering economic growth through leadership, management, and actions as an all-life safety response provider. We value the public trust, and our opportunity to serve you. We value a work environment that promotes health, wellness, and harmony, and we respect each person free of harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. We have a workforce which reflects the community we serve, a highly motivated and trained force, and we use teamwork, just like we do with our department heads. We use teamwork to achieve the department's vision and our mission. The primary objectives assigned to the personnel of the Waukegan Fire Department are as follows. We extinguish accidental and destructive fires, and we try to prevent the occurrence of those fires. We enforce all fire prevention laws and regulations and all other ordinances and laws within the competence of our department. We provide for emergency medical and rescue service, provide public education, establish and annually review an activity schedule to assure maximum utilization of manpower and coverage for all necessary activities. We develop good physical fitness of all of our personnel to adequately maintain our apparatus, hose, and equipment through programs and equipment to provide immediate responses. In closing, the Waukegan Fire Department responded to 9,786 incidents, which included 66% rescue calls. In 2008, we responded to over 10,000, and the first time that we broke that record was in 2007, where we responded to 10,317 incidents. During 2009, fire damage estimates totaled $2,368,179 for the 155 structure fires we responded to. On the bright side, a total value of all premises in which there was a fire was valued at over $192 million. That was a total savings of 98.77% due to your fire department. Due to time constraints, I will not bore you with a complete list of everything that we do at the fire department, but would be happy to answer any questions after the department heads' presentations. I will pledge to you that the department will continue to review our responsibilities, and as we face the continuing financial issues, we will continue to take and provide the top-notch emergency services that you as the great city of Waukegan deserve and expect. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Tom Haggerty, Director of Waukegan Public Works.
Good evening. As David said, my name is Tom Haggerty, and I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Waukegan. I'd like to talk to you briefly about Public Works Department. Public Works is broken into three main areas: Public Works itself, sewer water, and engineering. I'd like to break the departments down and explain a little bit about how we serve the city. In Public Works, we have a number of departments that I've chosen to highlight this evening. Forestry Department, this group maintains the parkway trees. We have approximately 18,000 parkway trees in the city. We're embarking on a program that would put us on a 7-year trim cycle. By this time next year, Waukegan should once again have the Tree City USA designation. Receiving the Tree City USA Award will provide state and national recognition to the city. It will also meet some of the preliminary criteria for urban forestry grants in the future. Forestry Department also supports snow removal operations and fall leaf collection. One of our other departments is the Traffic and Electrical Department. This group maintains the city-owned traffic signals, of which we have 17 intersections that the city owns and maintains. This department also paints all the road markings on the various city streets, which consists of about approximately 500,000 lineal feet. They maintain all signage throughout Waukegan, including the stop signs, speed limit signs, street markers, etc., for an approximate total of 9,000. This department also handles a multitude of graffiti calls. If you notice graffiti anywhere in the city, please report it to the Public Works Department. We want to get it off as quickly as we can, and that number is 360-0944. One of the other departments is the Vehicle Repair Department. They maintain the city's entire fleet except for the fire. It's a fleet of 470 vehicles, equipment from all of Public Works, Building and Code Compliance, and Police. This ranges from tractor trailers, heavy equipment, light trucks, small vehicles, as well as welding and fabrication. One of the others is the Water Department, and this consists of 3 departments within the department. The water plant, which processes up to 18 million gallons of water a day. Imagine, this place was built in 1926, how old that is. And those that run that, they've done an excellent job in keeping the plant modern and efficient to meet today's stringent water quality standards. The Water Meter Department reads and maintains the city's meters, and the Water Main Department maintains and repairs approximately 230 miles of water mains, some as old as 80, 90 years old. Our engineering department, this department oversees the constructions of the city's infrastructure, reviews new development, maintains city's records, financial guarantees, and GIS mapping. The department prepares proposals, specifications, and construction contracts for city council approval. The department also works with other departments on issues such as drainage, annexations, and reviews all new large-scale development for the city. The street department, it's about 240 miles of road that this department maintains. It's a group of departments that we've kind of put together to do this, but it includes all the asphalt streets, concrete curb, and street patching. We try and keep the streets swept on a once-a-week basis. This department also supports the fall leaf collection and our snow removal program. There are a number of other departments that play as vital a role as the ones that I've mentioned this evening, and I would be happy to talk to anyone as to their concerns in regards to Public Works after the meeting, or simply by calling our office at 360-0944. If I'm not there, please leave a message. I'd be glad to talk with anyone. Thank you for your time this evening.
Moving right along, we have Noelle Kisher-Lepper, who is our senior planner.
Good evening. So great to see so many people here tonight. As Dave said, I'm Noelle Kisher-Lepper. I'm Senior Planner and Legislative Liaison with the city. The Planning and Zoning Director, Russ Tomlin, extends his greetings as well as his regret that he couldn't be here tonight. Unfortunately, he had a prior commitment, so he asked me to speak on his behalf. There are several other members of his staff here, and if you guys would all just raise your hands so people can see who you are and know that they can come to you with questions too. There are a few around over here, maybe some hiding in the back. As a result of the staff reductions over the last year, the Planning and Zoning Department has been combined with the Building, Permitting, and Code Compliance departments. This new, leaner department will operate from the 3rd floor of City Hall and will operate more efficiently than the separate components have in the past. This combined department is responsible for building permits, property maintenance issues, zoning and development issues, property inspections, and contractor issues, among other things. The current duties, as well as the particular skills of each employee in the department, have been evaluated, and some duties have been reassigned to different staff people to make the most effective use of our limited resources. Zoning letters and zoning certificates, which have been required since 1989, anytime a property is transferred to a new owner, now include an inspection component that was incorporated in 2007, and require that the zoning of a property and its legal occupancy be posted in the window of the property while it's listed for sale, so that potential buyers understand the legal use and density of the property prior to making a purchase offer. This change has made for improved transactions and nearly eliminated issues where closings fell apart at the last minute because someone thought they were buying a property with a legal use and found out at the closing that it was something other than what they thought it was. We will continue to work toward the implementation of the city's award-winning master plan, as the mayor mentioned, and ensure that all development citywide meets the high standards and expectations that they should be required to meet and that Waukegan citizens deserve. Staff has worked diligently for some time to craft a new zoning ordinance and a map, which we hope to move forward through the public review process in the coming year. Some new components that we'd like to incorporate include green building elements and alternative energy sources. We will have a new focus on signage throughout the city. This will work as an educational process initially to provide business owners with the information as to the city's signage ordinances and to correct existing violations and prevent new ones. When ongoing noncompliance requires it, further actions will be taken to correct violations. This effort will improve the appearance of the city and increase property values throughout the city. Applications for building permits are once again increasing, which is good news and encouraging sign. We're also seeing more zoning letters that are being renewed for property closings as the properties are actually changing hands, and an overall increase in activity throughout our efforts. Approximately 1 year ago, we began electronic distribution of materials for the Waukegan Development Commission and the Judiciary Committee, which are department staffs, in an effort to communicate in a more timely manner and to reduce costs through the reduction in paper usage and staff time for copying and delivery of materials. This has been an exceptionally effective change. Our staff coordinates activities of several city commissions. The Waukegan Renaissance Commission reviews proposals and activities related specifically to the development of the downtown and lakefront, with an eye to fulfill the high standards of the master plan and the design guidelines. The Waukegan Development Commission saw a replacement of 8 of its 9 members in 2009 to bring a fresh perspective to the commission. They continue to review business and development proposals and projects throughout the city. The Historic Preservation Commission approves landmark status for historically significant properties throughout Waukegan. They are currently actively pursuing landmarking of homes within the Near North Historic District, which was established in 1978. We appreciate the opportunity to share a glimpse of our efforts with you and look forward to helping Waukegan to advance in the future. Next is our attorney, Ann Lynn, to share with you another of our efforts to improve the city of Waukegan. Thank you.
Thank you, Noelle. My name is Ann Lynn. I'm the attorney for the Building, Zoning, and Code Compliance Departments, and I'm very pleased to be with you tonight. I've been asked just to share a few words about one of our new programs that is starting right now, and that's the Vacant Structure Registry Ordinance. This was passed by the City Council on April 19th, and it is an effort which mirrors that of many communities around the United States that are being hit especially hard by foreclosures and structure abandonments due to the economic crisis. It's certainly not something that we are facing alone. So what we did was really communicate with many municipalities around the country to find out how they are addressing this issue, and then crafted an ordinance that really fits our needs here in Waukegan. Under this ordinance, responsible parties for vacant properties must register their properties with the city. And as a part of the registration process, they must identify for us a plan for the property during the period of vacancy. So this will include what their plans are for security, property maintenance, and the like, but also for reoccupancy and or removal of the structure if it's not able to be rehabilitated and reoccupied. We're really confident that this program, which we are just now starting to receive registrations for from banks and other individual property owners of vacant properties, will really address some of the problems that we're starting to see. We knew it would be coming, especially with the summer weather. We knew we would start to see longer grass and indicators from the exterior of properties that they are vacant. Because of this ordinance, we believe we'll be able to really address that and make the community a better place for everyone. Thank you.
And last but not least, Ezell Robbins from our Community Development Block Grant.
Thank you, David, to Mayor Sabunjan, and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ezell Robbins. I am the director of the Community Development Block Grant Program for the City of Waukegan that is commonly known as CDBG. The CDBG program is a grant-funded program administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. CDBG funds are allocated on a formula basis to communities whose overall population is 51% or more low, moderate income individuals. These funds are made available to entitled cities for the purpose of developing viable urban communities by providing decent housing and suitable living environments, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for low, moderate income persons. CDBG was created as a brick and sticks program primarily to address issues of physical decline within the community. The City of Waukegan has been a recipient of CDBG funds for approximately 35 years and presently receive approximately $1 million annually. HUD allows the expenditure of CDBG funds in 5 categories, those categories being administration, public services, public facilities, economic development, and housing. Of these categories, Waukegan's main focus has been and still is on housing. This includes both preservation of existing housing stock and support for new construction. The goal is to make available decent, affordable housing in safe, blight-free neighborhoods. The CDBG office has operated our housing rehabilitation program for approximately 35 years, producing an average of about 28 to 30 homes being rehabilitated during the course of a year. This average number of projects is expected to increase for program year 2010 because of additional funding and other federal housing opportunities made available. These opportunities include the Neighborhood Stabilization Program and the HUD dollar, or if you will, reduced price home sale program. Neighborhood Stabilization Program provided for the City of Waukegan $850,000. Those $850,000 to be used for the purpose of acquiring abandoned, foreclosed homes, doing rehabilitation work on them, and then selling them as affordable homes. Reduced price homes to be rehabbed and then sold as affordable dwelling units. Some will perhaps be demolished and have to be rebuilt. The goal of the CDBG staff is to improve neighborhoods, thereby improving the Waukegan community on the whole, producing safer and more aesthetically appealing dwelling and living environments. Again, we thank you. I'd just like to mention that we actually have a group of citizens that work with our program as a committee, as an advisory committee, and we'd certainly like to have some of you come and join us as we review applications and look at ways that we can make a greater impact on the City of Waukegan with these CDBG funds. Thank you for your time and your attentive ear.
Well, again, thank you for coming out tonight. We're fairly certain this is the moment you've been waiting for, the Q&A session. So, again, could we have another round of applause for all of our staff that came out tonight? And the questions. We had over 50 submitted, so we're going to try, like I said, to make it through as many of these as possible. Thank you so much for everyone that submitted them, and we will make good on our promise to stick around to try to make sure that any of the questions that we do not get to out loud, that you can connect with any of our department heads or staff to ensure that your question is answered. First question, Noel. Do we need a drum roll?
I don't think so. I think we're probably good, sans drum roll. There are a lot of questions that are repeats or similar, so I'm going to try to combine some questions and paraphrase, and hopefully we get all of the issues addressed doing it that way. If we don't, again, please stay after and catch the appropriate people. If you don't know who the appropriate people are, find one of us and we'll direct you to the right staff person. Mayor, can we start with you? We have a group of questions in relation to the lifeguards and the crossing guards, and what we're going to do to address the needs of the schools in terms of crossing guards.
Well, as a result of union contracts, going back to last year when we did our layoffs, we were forced to lay off all our part-time personnel. We had no choice. It was either that or lose a great deal of money. And one union in particular came back this year and demanded that we not bring back the lifeguards and not have the crossing guards available to our children as they go from home to school. I wanted to fight that, it was my every intent to stand up to that and say no. But when you're staring $150,000 in the face, and that there is another solution, we had to take another solution, and that was to work with the school district. We've met with Dr. Batista and his staff, and we have worked out an agreement that the crossing guards will be on duty every day through the rest of the school year. Then following the end of the school year, we will all sit down together and find some common solution to this problem. But unfortunately, it is going to require that the school district absorb the crossing guards into their employment base. And as I said, solutions are yet to come as far as the final answer to that.
Yes, we'll keep you again. Another question, or couple of questions for you, is about the recent issue with liquor licenses in gas stations, if you could address that briefly.
This is an issue that when I first was elected and I sat down with each alderman and we spent 3 or 4 hours together at the Sunset House or the Paragon or some other location, and I wanted them to understand exactly what it was that I intended to do here in the city of Waukegan. I put this issue out there at that time. There is nothing new about this to anybody. Now, during those conversations, the level of response coming from the alderman was, yes, that makes sense. That's a good idea. Yes, we should get alcohol out of the gas stations. Their response in public was something different. And it is what it is. I cannot control whether or not the city council decides to continue to provide liquor licenses for gas stations. But I can ask the question about fundamental fairness. There are approximately 6 to 7 of these licenses in the city of Waukegan held by mini-mart owners at gas stations. There are probably 40 or more mini-marts and even more gas stations than that where owners have put in the coolers, have done the same investment level that these people who have alcohol in their stations have done, and they are not allowed the same economic advantage that this small group of store owners is allowed. I can only post that question. I cannot force the alderman to make the change. But it is something that I have been open about, that I believe it's a mixed signal, and I will hold by that belief. And it will ultimately be in the hands of the city council as to whether that moves forward or not. I think given the comments at the last city council meeting where a number of aldermen reversed their stance from what they had told me in conversation to what they decided to say in public, does show that that probably will not occur.
And yes, the lifeguards.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. The lifeguards are in the same situation as the crossing guards. They were considered part-time personnel for the city of Waukegan. The union contracts required that we not bring them back. We are still working on trying to find a solution for that. We're not there yet. I can't promise you that the beach will be fully opened. There is no way of guaranteeing that. So we will have to continue working through this to see whether we can make the beach a viable operation or not. That's something that we will know probably over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And if you can maybe just summarize really briefly a couple questions asked about what you want for the city or your hopes, maybe a little bit about your vision. What do you want the residents to do? For the residents.
Sure. Well, we hope that the residents understand and help us adapt to the difficult times that we're going through. Everybody kind of has to do their part here. This is going to take everybody pulling together to get through this. We have a lot of opportunities for people to volunteer to do things around Waukegan. There are a lot of different organizations. We have an organization that is known as Former Inmates Striving Together that has volunteered its time to come downtown, to do cleanup work on the streets, to go into the alleys behind commercial areas and clean up the places where garbage has come out and where there are unhealthy situations. So I think volunteerism is going to be a big thing to be able to help Waukegan move forward and to get through this difficult period. We cannot do it just as government. For me to say that to you would be an outright lie. We cannot do it alone. We need all of you to be part of it. And as the chief of police said, we need you to pick up the phone when you see something strange or untoward going on in your neighborhood. As the fire chief, he needs the same sort of assistance. If you see somebody that is unwell, or if you see what appears to be a fire, pick up the phone and let us know. Be part of the solution. It's a really difficult time. Now, a lot of people have asked me, knowing what I know now, would I have run for mayor? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I probably wouldn't have. But we're in it, and we're in it together, and we'll get through it together. But it's going to take... It's going to take adapting, it's going to take patience, and I think, though, that by the time I'm done with my term, and I say truthfully it's going to take 2 to 3 years to get out of this mess, by the time I walk away from the mayor's office and have done my duty, I hope to have the city pointed in the right direction with the help of all the citizens, their children, and their friends. So it is not going to happen overnight, but if we don't pull together, and if we don't all take part, and if we don't all reach out to one another, we will fracture as a community, and I don't want to see that happen. I don't think anybody in here does either.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks. Tina, could I ask you to come up and join us, please? We have a number of questions related to financial issues. Again, I'm going to try to group them into maybe one long, not grammatically correct question, okay. And see if you can address all of those things. Questions relating to where the money went, where the borrowed money goes, how our capital budget addresses routine maintenance of our facilities and equipment, how we're bringing in new revenue, what happens to the revenue from some existing sources like red light cameras. That's probably a good,
I think that's enough.
Good spot. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the borrowed money, I think that question might be about the working cash bonds. In the fall, when I joined the city in late August, we had about 3 months worth of vendor checks that had been cut but not mailed. And we were having difficulty making payroll every 2 weeks, and we're borrowing from, in some instances, restricted funds to make payroll. So we entered the capital markets to borrow money for cash flow purposes. Because it's not for a bricks and mortar, it was a taxable bond issue, meaning we paid the same interest rate that a private company would pay if they borrowed money. Governments usually get to borrow at a lower interest rate. And we were not given that option because the money really was just to go to cover bills. At the end of this fiscal year, out of that $30 million, we have about $3 to $4 million left. So the money went very, very quickly. And it met obligations, current obligations. The appropriation for the 10 fiscal year was adopted with a $6.5 million structural deficit built right into it. And the revenue projections were optimistic. So we are anticipating that we will complete the fiscal year once we're done with our audit with a deficit larger than that. We also had to pay off a note on the Fountain Square property. So $6.9 million of that $30 million that we borrowed did go to pay off the outstanding debt on the Fountain Square property. So we did have to pay that off on a taxable basis, but we were able to stretch the payments over a longer period of time. And as the mayor has mentioned, we are moving forward to try to liquidate those assets and sell that property. The first $6.9 million of any proceeds from that sale will go to retire or call in early those bonds that related to that. So that's where that money went. Where the money went before I was here, I'm not really sure. As the mayor showed in the charts, you know, our revenues were not going up as quickly as our expenditures. So, for the most part, I'm thinking that, when you overspend year after year and you erode your fund balance, eventually you run out of money. The city, for a few years, in part because audited financial statements were not done, did not fully understand what their true fund balance or cash position, rainy day fund position was, and spent down cash reserves for capital projects, a pay-as-you-go, instead of doing long-term borrowing. So the cash reserves were being eroded by deficits year after year on an operational basis. What else was I supposed to answer? Red light? Cameras?
Just revenues in general, that was one of the specific revenue sources addressed, but what are we doing with existing revenue sources, and how can we get more revenue sources?
That's a good question. The existing revenue sources, the one thing that we did try to do for the past practice in building the budget was to use budget projections based on the prior year budget as opposed to the actuals. So one thing we did going into this budget process is we took a much more conservative approach to both our revenue and our expenditure projections and looked at national trends, state trends, local community trends, and actual performance, and pulled those revenue projections to a much more realistic basis. One new revenue source that we added for the upcoming year was garbage or refuse collection fee. So there will be a $5 per quarter residential fee to try to recoup some of the costs of the Veolia contract, which is about a $4 million contract per year. The most stable type of revenue that a government can tap is that of property taxes. We've been heavily dependent on very elastic revenues, sales tax, income tax, local use tax, and as the economy declined, those revenues declined. So in those areas, which are large revenues for us, we really have to be patient and wait for an economic recovery. And part of the reason that the property tax rate went up to $1.64 is because it was the most stable and easily accessed revenue that we could count on for the upcoming fiscal year. Red light, like other enforcement type revenues, go back into the general fund that funds our public safety operations. And throughout the fiscal year, we will be working with our finance committee to look at other revenue sources and opportunities and bring those forward to the city council. Any new tax or user fee or revenue source is subject to city council approval, and that's something that we'll be trying to work on as the year goes on. Is that it?
I'm keeping you for one more.
No? Okay.
The next question is about pensions. Excuse me. Specifically, will 401ks or something similar to that be available for any new hires? And how is the pension system set up in the city?
The pension system runs with state statute. So as a local government, we have to follow state law, and new hires that come into the city of Waukegan, like any other local municipality in the state of Illinois, have to be afforded the defined benefit plan that is called for under state law. So we can have additional 457 plans, which are kind of like 401k plans, but they cannot replace a pension plan. That would require change in state law, and it's something that I would encourage everyone, if you're interested in that, to contact your senators or your House of your rep and get some more information on that. But that we really have to defer to the state on.
Thank you, Tina.
Can I go down?
You can go down. Ann Lynn, if you would join us, we have some property maintenance questions. And again, I'm going to group a series of questions into one long run-on sentence. What's being done by the city to address the loss in value of properties based on code violations in neighborhoods? And how do we recognize violations, and what do we do to address them?
Well, it's an ongoing process, but I think that we're making some real progress in addressing difficult code issues in the city of Waukegan. Chief Yancey and the mayor both addressed it. Some of our larger rental properties over the years have been allowed to deteriorate. And those properties, based on an ordinance which was passed in the city 7 years ago in 2003, which requires rental properties to be licensed, that process has allowed us to do now business and rental license suspension and revocation for those properties that are not being operated consistent with our ordinances. That's a very powerful tool, and we've used it, I'm proud to say, most effectively this year in 2 specific properties, Julian Lakeside Towers and also Whispering Oaks. We really get their attention when we do a suspension of the business license and tell them that they are not going to be able to have people living in their buildings anymore. So that's extremely important. And then we have a dedicated code compliance staff, some of whom are here tonight to address any questions that you might have, that are daily out on the road driving around. We also encourage you, if you notice something that you think might be a code violation, please call us and report it, and we will be very glad to take a look at it and address it. We also have administrative adjudication where we can issue citations to property owners after we've tried to work with them. We always try to work first and see if they will come into compliance voluntarily. But if they do not, then we can issue a citation to them for their failure to maintain their property in a way that benefits all of us. So those are just a couple of things. We do encourage everyone to assist us in that effort, and thank you.
Tom, if you could come and join us for just a minute. Again, I'm going to combine a couple of questions. Most specifically, because of the timeliness, I'm sure, after the rains recently, what's the city doing about flooding and checking the sewers for maintenance issues? Can we put cameras in the sewers? Those types of questions.
Currently, there's, I don't know, there's maybe 5, 6, 7 areas in town that we've had some very serious water issues with. And we're starting today. We've got 1 camera truck. We're cleaning lines, we're televising. I think we started televising yesterday. We got to clean ahead of the TV truck. But there's, like I say, 5 or 6 areas that I want to start with, and we're going to spread out from there as far as televising where there has been some flooding that was last year and this year where they overlapped. There's some of those areas that are still the same. There's those are the areas that we're going to start with first.
Thank you, sir.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it. You're
All
off the
right.
hook. For now, anyway. Okay.
Just do one last question now.
Okay.
I believe we've reached the point in which we're going to ask one last question, and I'm looking at it, and Mayor, if it'd be all right with you, Violet is not on the agenda, but can she come up and answer this question? Violet, would you be willing to answer a question?
This one?
This question is, can we make parents responsible for their children, e.g. property destruction and curfew? And I think what we're going at is positive things that we could do and focus their attention and energy on. What do you think about that, Violet? Is that fair, Mayor?
I was going to say, I think I should have my mom and dad come up and answer that question for us here tonight. But I think we've heard that answer several times already from the mayor tonight and from the rest of the city staff. The answer comes from an entire community. The answer comes from building yourself opportunities to create events. It comes from festivals. It comes from showing up at events like tonight and asking questions. It comes from turning out and paying attention. And I think that we've heard tonight a real call to action, and I think that that's something that Waukegan Main Street, the organization that I work for, does an excellent job of. So if you're looking for a place to volunteer, I have some of those for you. If you're looking for events to attend this summer, we have some in downtown Waukegan. If you're looking for other places to go, you can come and join us tonight at Greentown Tavern for open mic night. In terms of what kids can do, and in terms of what parents can do. There's a real call for that right now as well. We're interested in having young people volunteer and tell us what they'd like to see. We are the future of this city. We've been here and we're paying attention, and we'd love, love, love for more kids to come out and be a part of this movement that's going on right now. There's a real effort for arts. So if you're interested in creating art, in performing art, in doing music, let us know. There are so many opportunities that already exist, and there's a lot of opportunity to create new ideas. So I think it really all comes from volunteering. I think it comes from paying attention. It comes from wonderful people like you who show up at events and ask these questions and do the follow-through. It's great to be here tonight. It's wonderful to see how many people care about this. But what are we going to do tomorrow? Are we going to make sure that we're showing up at more events? Are we going to make sure that we're shopping downtown? Are we going to make sure that we're eating at restaurants in Waukegan and bringing friends and telling friends what a great experience that we've had here? I think a lot of that is, too, is that children follow the example of their parents. So what parents are doing is really important. It's not just saying, hey, kid, go do that, go sign up for this community service event. It's bringing your kid to these events and spending time with them, going to the library, going to story times down there, signing your kids up for dance classes, bringing your kids to some of these festivals, coming out to the Memorial Day Parade. There is no shortage of things to do in Waukegan, and so we hope that you'll all continue to participate. And on that note, I would really just like to thank the staff of the Genesee Theater for hosting us. They did a wonderful job in this beautiful facility, one of the many things that Waukegan has to be proud of. So thank you to the Genesee Theater tonight.
I did it mostly because she was probably one of the youngest people in the audience here. So that concludes our organized portion of the evening. As promised, we are going to all stick around until we address all those questions that were not able to be answered. Mayor, are you able to stick around too? So everyone is fair game. Please, again, thank you so much for coming out tonight. We do appreciate everything you've done, and thank you so much. And come back to the Genesee Theater to enjoy a fine program. Thank you.